Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I think we're going to kick off. Thank you for your patience. So thank you very much indeed for joining this session on product efficiency, the world's first fuel, to mark the announcement of a fantastic initiative this morning. And I'll be shortly handing over in a few minutes to the UK Minister, Greg Hands, the Minister for Clean Growth, to give some opening remarks, and also to Fatih Birol, Executive Director of the International Energy Agency. Thank you very much both for joining us this morning. We will then have a number of panelists, and I will introduce them in a short while, and then some closing remarks as well. So firstly, to introduce myself, I'm Luke Herbert. I'm the International Director of Communications at the Climate Group, and our focus is on driving climate action fast. So this is a hugely important topic for that mission today. We often talk about this next 10 years as being the climate decade, and so it's been really fantastic for us to hear of so many initiatives which are timed to drive action by 2030, as well as obviously targeting net zero by the end of the decade as well. And actually, energy efficiency is an absolutely critical factor in that. It helps to drive down costs, as well as obviously drive down electricity usage. And that's going to be incredibly critical as countries are looking to drive up renewables, but also want those renewables to be replacing fossil fuels, not just supporting increased energy demand, which is going to be the case over the next decade as many countries across the world obviously economically develop. In fact, just 4 products, air conditioners, refrigerators, motors, and lighting, account for 40% of global electricity consumption. And that is their demand is going to increase through the climate decade as well. It's incredibly important for a number of countries to be helping with cooling, particularly as the climate warms, and obviously to be increasing their development and use of motors and refrigerators for supporting, cutting food waste, for instance, as well. So it's interlinked with many other climate areas. Now, to tackle this, the UK government, together with the IA, is launching today a project efficiency call to action, aiming to double the product efficiency of those 4 key products by 2030. And the Minister is going to say more, but I can say that actually 14 countries have now signed up to that as well. And this is driving forward actually the SEED initiative, which has been going for some time, which is the Super Efficient Equipment and Appliance Deployment Initiative, which includes a number of countries. And so this is a key set of actions within that initiative. Now, at the Climate Group, we run a program with partners called EP100, where large businesses across the world help drive energy efficiency through targets on energy productivity, on energy management systems, or in setting targets for net zero green buildings. And happy to announce today that all 129 EP100 members have endorsed this product efficiency pledge. So this is showing that business and government are driving this forward. And actually, a couple of the panel members who are joining us are members of that EP100 initiative as well. So that's fantastic. So today, we're going to hear from leading governments and businesses on how they aim to raise ambition and improve product efficiency. And I think now I'm going to just turn over to a short video.
Appliance energy efficiency is critical to achieving net zero emissions. In advance of COP26, the Government of the United Kingdom, SEED Initiative and partners have launched the Product Efficiency Call to Action to double the efficiency of 4 priority appliances accounting for 40% of global electricity consumption. Widespread government support would save 30,000 terawatt-hours of electricity and prevent 13,000 megatons of carbon dioxide emissions. These savings are equivalent to the generation of 1,500 coal-fired power plants and would save households $3.8 trillion on their energy bills. The Product Efficiency Call to Action is open to all. Widespread government support at COP26 will show the world that a zero-carbon future is within reach. The time to act is now. Contact us to learn more.
Great, thank you. And now I'm going to turn over to Minister Greg Hands to give an opening address. Thank you, Minister.
Well, thank you and good afternoon. Thank you, Luke, and welcome to this event hosted here in the UK Pavilion. As Minister of State for Business, Energy and Clean Growth and Climate Change, I'm working internationally to achieve ambitious and inclusive climate action, especially in support of an accelerated global clean energy transition that works for all. I would like to begin by thanking some of our core partners who have been essential in supporting our call to action on product efficiency to date. Firstly, to the IEA, it's great to have my good friend Fatih Birol, who from the outset, who have been a valued and trusted partner, and I look forward to hearing from you shortly, Fatih. Also, next to you, my great friend Hakan Bulgurlu from Arçelik, Hoş geldiniz to, as I always say, my two favorite Turks. I did a year of Turkish at university. I don't get much opportunity to practice it. So the fact I've got two in the same room is incredibly invigorating. And to other partner organizations, to CLASP, who we must thank for the opening video, to United for Efficiency, and to Luke Herbert, the International Director for the Climate Group, as our chair event. And a big thank you to all of our audience for joining us. It is important not to understate the role that product efficiency can play in accelerating the global clean energy transition. We all know that the challenge we face over the next decade is that many economies will see a rapid rise in their domestic energy demand. Without greater ambition on energy efficiency, we risk outstripping our ability to meet demand with clean energy. We want to encourage more countries and companies to increase energy efficiency and in particular realize the social, financial and environmental benefits of product efficiency as a solution to reducing energy demand and emissions. Improving the efficiency of products that are everywhere in our daily lives is one of the quickest and most cost-efficient ways to achieve this for both developed and developing nations alike. For example, the Economist Intelligence Unit calculated that implementing more efficient cooling solutions could save $3.5 trillion in power generation costs over the next 10 years. And the benefits go wider than just carbon reduction and cost savings. Analysis from the IEA reveals improvements in appliance and equipment efficiency are some of the lowest cost options available today. These are the lowest cost options for reducing energy consumption and associated emissions, with typical society benefit cost ratios of 4:1. Analysis from CLASP supports these findings and suggests the administrative costs required to achieve a 1-ton reduction in CO2 are less than $1 per ton of CO2. For these reasons, the UK has been engaging countries to sign our joint statement for action on product efficiency. This commits countries to work together towards a global doubling of product efficiency by 2030, with a focus on 4 key products already mentioned: domestic air conditioners, refrigerators, electric motors, and lighting. Together, these account for over 40% of global electricity consumption, and so by doubling their efficiency, we can make substantial progress in reducing global energy demand. But let me add some context today to what this progress means for the global clean energy transition. Today, I'm able to announce the support of 14 SEAD members who have endorsed our joint statement for action on product efficiency. If these countries doubled the efficiency of these key products, they would be avoiding 880 megatons of CO2 emissions each and every year. That's equivalent to the emission avoided from 400 medium-sized coal-fired power stations over the 9-year period to 2030, simply through product efficiency. The coal to clean energy transition is happening faster, more easily, and more cost-effectively because of these product efficiency commitments. I extend my thanks and gratitude to all our partners for their unwavering support and to all our signatories: India, Japan, Brazil, South Korea, Indonesia, the UK itself, Germany, Sweden, Denmark, Australia, Nigeria, Ghana, Colombia, and Chile for making this ambition a reality. Commitments from governments are important in giving a signal that action is needed, but it is also critical to ensure that any commitments we make can and will be delivered. We have been working to ensure that 2030 delivery will be possible in two key ways. First, through the reinvigoration of the Super Efficiency Equipment and Appliance Deployment Initiative, it's a bit of a mouthful, known as SEAD itself. SEAD, as the foremost international initiative on product efficiency, is our center of gravity for enhancing international cooperation. We are pleased to announce 6 new members who have joined the existing 18 members of SEAD in the past 6 months alone: Colombia, Chile, Denmark, Japan, Ghana, and Nigeria. Secondly, the publication of the IEA's ladder framework on the new SEAD website. This ladder framework will work as a roadmap for our 2030 target, and it will help to show a clear trajectory for improving appliance energy performance over time. As COP presidents, we have worked hard to put product efficiency on the platform it deserves, and we look forward to 2022 as a year of implementation. Delivery of this 2030 target will depend on more than just action from governments, of course. Without delay, we must create a positive feedback loop in which decisive government policies and private sector leadership reinforce each other and together enforce stronger action on product energy efficiency. I'm pleased to say that through our partnership with the Climate Group, we are hoping to achieve exactly this. Their efforts have secured over 129 global businesses to join their EP100 initiative and commit to improving their energy productivity. We must also expand this work to different regions across the globe. To date, our joint statement has received over 20 endorsements from respective international NGOs. The support of these organizations brings ideas and accountability and will help amplify our message with regional audiences. Finally, and to underline the importance of this work, the Call to Action's 2030 doubling target will help our collective global effort to achieve much-needed breakthroughs such as those announced earlier this week for clean power. Global coordination is critical for achieving product energy efficiency gains. Only through enhanced international cooperation among policymakers, investors, business, and civil society can we accelerate the pace of the global clean energy transition. I know that the commitment set out today will go a long way to achieving this and ultimately will help to reach net zero in a way that is faster, easier, and more cost-effective. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Product efficiency, one of our key ways to reaching net zero as we go forward. Thank you very much indeed for your attention.
Thank you, Minister. And now I'm just going to introduce Dr. Fatih Birol, who is the Chief Executive of the IEA, the Executive Director of the International Energy Agency.
Very many thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Just Mr. Minister gave an excellent overview of the very initiative which International Energy Agency is proud to be partner of, I better say. We have several years ago put a label on energy efficiency. What is that label? Energy efficiency is the first fuel. And my colleague, Mr. Brian Motherway, who is our energy efficiency guru, would remember, I told Brian, first fuel is not enough. We call it very first fuel, because it is really, when you look at all the issues we are dealing with, economics, climate change, air pollution, energy security, it is everywhere we have energy efficiency. Now, before going to energy efficiency and some considerations on that, if I may, as the Executive Director of the IEA, I want to share a very good news for all of us. I think it's a good news about COP. Before COP, there was a lot of, there still is, skepticism, pessimism, whether or not something will come out of this meeting, or people come here just to make some discussions and talks and go back home. Now, dear colleagues, many governments, the last one being the Indian government, the major one, they made commitments for carbon neutrality in the last few days. 105 governments made a pledge on methane emission reductions. So I ask my colleagues in Paris at the IEA, please calculate if those pledges which were made, including those up to now, up to yesterday, were implemented, plus the methane pledges are implemented, what is the temperature trajectory we are in line with? And they came up with the following result. If those pledges for carbon neutrality and the methane pledges are fully implemented, we are now in line with a temperature increase of 1.8 degrees Celsius, which is very good compared to where we were. It is enough? No. It is guaranteed to success? No, because we need action. And when I say action, one of the most important magic buttons we have to push when it comes to action is energy efficiency. When we look at the numbers, it is what we do at the IEA all the time, we see that in the region, for example, talking about the air conditioner, it was the first one that Mr. Minister mentioned, air conditioner ownership in India, Indonesia, ASEAN countries, if you look at that part of the world, which is very important, about 10% per household. This compares 98% in Japan and 95% in the United States. With the increasing income levels and with the increase of temperature, those people will buy, and rightly so, air conditioners. And even today, number one driver of electricity demand in that very region is air conditioners, by far. And at the same time, in the same region, India, Indonesia, and all ASEAN countries, an air conditioner, in order to provide the same thermal comfort like in Japan, they have to use 3 times more electricity just to provide the same thermal comfort. Now, what is lacking, in my view, in the view of the International Energy Agency, standards and norms. They are not there universally. Therefore, putting the tight standards, time norms are critical. And we have many good examples, like I am sure Mr. Bulguli will tell us about the good examples in from that region. But when we look at the overall picture, we see that today, unfortunately, only 1/3 of the electrical appliances in the world are subject to standards, norms, and regulations. 2/3 are free riders. So as such, I believe this is a wonderful initiative to provide standards and norms in order to increase the product efficiency, and International Energy Agency is proud to be a partner with the government of United Kingdom. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Birol. Now, if I could just ask our panelists to please come and sit up at front. Thank you. Yes. I believe you have to go, don't you, up there? Yeah. Just one question or 2 questions? Okay, I'll hand over to you shortly. Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Great, thank you very much. So we have 4 panelists. We have 3 here at the moment. We have, thank you very much for joining us, Her Excellency Ms. Sharon Ikeazar, Minister of State for Environment from the Government of Nigeria, Mr. Hakan Bulgurlu, CEO of Arçelik, and Mr. Vincent Petit, Senior Vice President, Global Strategy Perspective, Schneider Electric. And shortly hope to have also Dr. Ubay Bakre, Director General, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Government of India. Oh, you are fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bakre. Her Excellency, Ms. Ikeza has to head off shortly, so I'm just going to turn to you first, if that's okay. Thank you very much for joining us today. So just 1 second. Now, Nigeria has joined the SIAD initiative this year, which is fantastic, showing the willingness of your government to champion the acceleration of improvements in product efficiency. What are the government's ongoing efforts to foster product efficiency in your own country and across Africa? And how are you hoping to implement the goals that you've actually set this week at COP26? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much. I would start by saying that by adopting energy efficiency, we can reduce our energy bills, also improve the air quality and all that. But for developing nations like mine, the energy transition would largely focus on energy access, because that's what's lacking for us in Africa. And also, for us to ensure we electrify our homes and industries in a clean way, while optimizing consumption with efficient processes, we will have to work closely with the private sector and just have an all-of-government approach in that. We already have an energy transition plan in place, but we find that this energy transition plan will need at least $410 billion, above business as usual spending to fund this and for us to achieve our net zero. But the plan is extremely detailed and is based on data and evidence that will be able to achieve this. Then also, we would need, various ranges of actions as well, to accelerate our energy efficiency. And we're already working with the private sector and in collaboration with UK government to get this done in Nigeria, and we hope to influence the rest of Africa on this. But for us in Africa, energy efficiency, energy access. And again, for Nigeria, the issue of transitional gas will have to come in.
Thank you. Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
What does it mean to you having this initiative that's been announced today and having the opportunity to work with the other countries involved and also the businesses such as those here today that are supporting this?
Okay, we would hope this also would provide more jobs, green jobs, for our people back in Africa.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So now, actually, the first question I'm going to put to Dr. Bakre. India has been a leadership member of SIAD and one of the first countries to back the joint statement for action on product efficiency, so driving today's initiative. Thank you. It encourages countries to double the efficiency of those 4 key products. As one of the fastest developing economies globally, what is the government of India doing to ensure that it is in the best position to improve those appliances in this way by 2030? It's quite a challenge.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. In fact, what Minister Hunt said and also Dr. Fatih, very rightly the action, this is the time for the action, and from the government of India, we are the co-lead for SEED initiative for quite almost a decade now with UK, and we really complement UK government and IEA and all other partners from SAM Secretariat and SAM officials and the member countries for promoting this product efficiency. In fact, the numbers which have been presented by Minister and also from Dr. Fatih are really the numbers which India has actually witnessed. We have, even today, we have 6% households using air conditioners, but air conditioners is one of the largest appliance in India using electricity, and we have a projection to increase the numbers almost threefold. So the electricity demand will go actually 2.5 times from now in 1 decade. But we have a very clear plans on the raising the standards. Every 3 year, we are raising the standards. We are also trying to get more efficient refrigerant use for the designs. The designs are becoming more inverter based, etc. The numbers, if I can just share that. Currently, the appliance program, star labeling, now we are covering almost 30 appliances. But the top four, in fact, the top three appliances, refrigerator, air conditioners, and the lighting, alone, they are able to save something around 70% of the total electricity and the global the CO2 emissions. In numbers, it's the total emissions which we are saving something around 55 million tons as of now, which will go past more than 120 million tons of CO2 in next 5 years or so. So the kind of demand rise which is expected from even the household air conditioner use raising from current 6% to 20% will have a great burden on electricity demand. And unless there is a clear policy and delivery in promoting refrigeration and air conditioning in an efficient manner, it's going to be difficult for us to actually, or it will be a challenge to meet the demand. So the seed program and the product efficiency is going to actually address many challenges for the coming years. And the positive part is that the consumers are responding very, very well. Let's not forget that the consumers are actually going to drive this efficiency campaign. And if you offer good designs of any energy efficient design at an affordable price, the consumers are going to pull their demand, and all the manufacturers and the industry is going to demand. So I'll stop here, and thank you so much for again inviting me for this panel discussion. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And now I'm going to turn to Mr. Petit. Europe has seen great benefits from improved energy efficiency through the Eco-Design Directive. What opportunities to take action on product efficiency has your company taken? And in the absence of energy and product efficiency improvements, and to address energy and product efficiency improvements across your operations, how would the achievability of climate targets if there was not those energy and product efficiency improvements, how would the climate targets be more difficult that we're trying to achieve? Thank you. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, first question. Let me maybe give a little bit of background on the Schneider journey, because in fact we've been into this journey of eco-design for in fact more than 20 years. I learned that today because I was reviewing a little bit before the panel, which I didn't know. So if you look a little bit our carbon emissions at Schneider, overall, scope 1, 2, 3, right, we have about 60 million tons of CO2 emission on an annual basis, and commitment to bring that to zero. I could detail, but I will not do it now. But the key point is 50 million tons of those 60 are actually coming from product energy use. So the products that we sell, right, the circuit breakers, the UPSs, and so on, the products that we sell that go in different installations, and the energy that is used to run them. It's 90% of our emissions, as a matter of fact. So the topic of efficiency is absolutely key to us, right? Even though we are not doing refrigerators, just to be clear. And I know it was a bit a question, but I'll come to that. But it's an interesting lesson learned, right? Because we've been working on that for quite a long time. And in fact, through advanced design and a real focus on the topic in offer development, you can actually generate quite significant efficiency most of the time. We've seen that in the world of appliances. We've seen that in our world, saving often more than 30%. So I think that's one key point. A second thing, because we've really thought about this, a second thing is that most of the energy that we use to run those appliances is actually electricity. And that's the same for lighting, that's the same for cooling that you were referring to, that's the same for motors, or at least most of them, right? It's electricity. So the second order of business, once you've worked on efficiencies, how you actually decarbonize the electricity. And on this, there are plenty of solutions. And in fact, we're pretty active on many of them, including distributed generation and so on. But this is the second big angle. And the third big angle, I would say, I will stop because I'm getting too long, right?
You're good,
is okay?
You're good.
A third big angle on which we have been working on is actually the control the control of the energy use of those products. So I mean, when it comes to cooling, I mean, and I just want to bounce back on what you were just saying, because I mean, it's very clear, and cooling is probably a huge energy demand growth in India and in many other places, and including in Europe, in fact, where it's getting warmer and warmer. But if you are able to control that cooling, that demand, you know, in a smart way, as a matter of fact, number one, you can reduce the demand, and number two, you can reduce that demand at times where the electricity is most carbon intensive. And that things that are already commonplace, you know, through new technologies. As a matter of fact, we've just published a report where we show that implementing such technologies in building settings, you can save 20 to 30% of your CO2 emissions overall for the building, including the one from electricity, with paybacks that are between 5 and 8 years, depending on the sectors. So I mean, product efficiency is very key, and we need to continue the effort on appliance. How you decarbonize electricity and how you control your appliances, I think, are the three pillars on which we are working. And I'm not putting ourselves as an example. I think we've been working a lot on this in recent years. We have still a long journey to go, right? We still have 50 million tons, right, to get to zero. So, but well, couple of thoughts.
Great, thank you. And actually, interesting that payback times. When I worked in manufacturing previously at a car company, this is only about 10 years ago, we were seeing paybacks sort of 15, 20 years. So amazing to see the technology come through.
Not with digital. Yeah.
Not with digital, exactly. That's pre-digital.
Yeah.
And thank you for your leadership in the EP100 program as well. And so now turning to another leader, Archilek, and Mr. Bulgurlu, thank you very much for joining us. And I wanted to just ask, when it comes to the IEA's scenario to achieve 1.5 degrees C, which is a hugely stretching target, energy efficiency has to account for half of all emissions abatement by 2030. So just a little bit of responsibility on our shoulders on this agenda. That's why it's commonly referred to as Dr. Brill said, as the first fuel in energy decarbonisation. What opportunities has your company taken on product efficiency, and what signals are you seeing across the broader market as well?
Thank you. A very broad topic, and we had two, Honorable Greg Hands and Fatih Birol gave very clear messages. One called it a magic button, the other called it first fuel. But in the end, what needs to stick in your minds is that if we are going to win this battle, and it is a battle, don't get me wrong, all of these countries' commitments, companies' commitments, Schneider to zero, Arçelik to zero, by the way, we're a big emitter as well. So these are very important, don't get me wrong. But the lowest hanging fruit is definitely energy efficiency, because the technology is mature and it is here today. This is the most distinct differential. The only thing missing is unified regulation worldwide. What have we done? Well, we have reduced since 2010, the past 20 years, the amount of electricity our appliances consume by down to 50%, 80% in some cases in cooling. And we have now committed to a further 50% reduction in our Scope 3 emissions, which you spoke about, which is what essentially the product emits in the consumer's home when they're using it. We're very proud of being carbon neutral. For the past 2 years, we've been carbon neutral. You'll hear many CEOs say they'll become carbon neutral 2040, 50. There's a big distinction. We actually create our own carbon credit. We don't buy it. So there's a big difference between buying carbon credit and calling yourself neutral and actually reducing the amount of emissions and then creating credit yourself through energy efficiency programs, which make a big difference. But we're carbon neutral in Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, which is only 2% of our emissions. So essentially, if this is a battle and we're going to win it, the big difference has to be made in Scope 3 emissions in the consumer's home. Now, we make 50 million appliances a year. In the absence of regulation, what does that mean? We're saying, okay, governments need to act, and they do, and thank you very much for the Indian example. I have to be careful because you're here too. We manufacture a lot in India, just joking, but we do manufacture the most energy efficient appliances in India only above and beyond what the regulation demands. So this is the example I want to use, and then I'll pass it on. In South Africa, we voluntarily, we bought a company there which had 35-40% market share, dominant in sub-Saharan Africa. Some of you may know it, DeFi. We've been investing steadily. The average energy label for a fridge was E. in the absence of regulation. We voluntarily switched to manufacturing only A. And the immediate reaction was, A, you're going to lose market share because your costs are going to go up. B, your competitors are not going to follow you, so they will be more cost competitive in a market where price is not elastic. Well, the result is 5 years later, we have 50% market share, or 48% or something. Please don't hold me to the exact number. But the big difference there is consumers understood that the reflection to their energy bill in terms of savings is significant. So they were happy to buy a higher class product. And the government quickly realized that they saved investment from 2 coal-fired, 500 megawatt coal-fired power plants, essentially. And you know there are rolling blackouts in South Africa. So very significant. We are present in where most of growth in emissions are going to come from. You cannot tell somebody who's in India who is going to have wet bulb moments. Do you know what a wet bulb moment is? Have you all? It's when basically the temperature in a city goes beyond livable. So you can't spend time outside. And that is coming. If you look at the FT's scenarios, pathways today, providing everybody does what they're saying they're going to do, will be at 1.8. Great news. I don't believe somehow everybody's going to do what they need to do. So I think we need to be more vigilant and conservative. But if we're talking about a 2-degree warmer world, we're talking about extreme temperatures being much higher in places like India, and more days where people cannot go on the street. They have to stay at home with extreme heat. But there's only 6% penetration of air conditioners. I mean, are you going to tell them not to buy an air conditioner? You can't. So this is really a frontier where huge gains need to be made. And I think as businesses, our responsibility and leadership teams is to guide the businesses voluntarily to use all current technologies available to limit the amount of CO2 we emit. Just one thing I'm going to mention, last one. If we manage, we haven't announced yet, but we're changing our SBTi target on Scope 3 emissions to a 50% reduction by 2030. Now, also, by the way, we're saying doubling by 2030. The world needs to cut emissions by 45% by till 2030. Well, 2030 is only 245 weeks away. 4 weeks ago, it was 229 weeks. So, I mean, you know, time is ticking really, really fast. But that would mean an absolute reduction in 12 million tons of emissions caused by us, if we manage that. And that's roughly the equivalent of what 8 million homes consume in a year. So just to put it in context. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. San, thank you for highlighting as well the speed we have to act. I think it's we can never forget it. It's going to be a very busy 10 years. I'm now going to ask a few questions really about the interaction between governments and business. And one of the things I find really interesting about the initiative announced today is it is bringing in both governments and business right from the start. Quite often you see governments taking a lead and then asking businesses to join later, or vice versa actually. You know, across whole areas that we work, we see businesses taking the lead on renewables, electric vehicles, as well as this agenda, and then governments love that and come on board and support that work. So bringing them together right from the offset, I think, brings interesting opportunities. So my first question is on that is to Mr. Bakre. In India, as we've referred to already, ownership of appliances such as air conditioners are increasing rapidly, and will have to support economic growth as well. And the government has been working really hard to make sure that supply and demand are balanced. But with that kind of growth, what lessons can India share in terms of opportunities to collaborate with industry? And coming from the Indian government, what do you need from businesses further to what you've already heard to help address that issue?
Yeah, thank you. In fact, very nicely put up by the from Schneider and ArcelorMittal. The government has to play a very key role, at least as I may say in the beginning. I'll just give a very small example, and as you rightly said, in 2007 when this air conditioner program was launched, the government departments, even one of the department I was heading that time, we were purchasing the air conditioners less than the level 1. So today I'm heading the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, which is the nodal agency in the country for energy efficiency head. So in 2007, the first time when the level 1 was introduced, so we had the level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. the corporates and the government were not even purchasing the level 1. So you can imagine the efficiency. And that level 1 has improved by at least 40% after 10 years. Whereas the government has already decided and directed last 6 years that only purchases will be not less than level 3. In fact, most of the corporates are purchasing only level 5. And for most of the even government sectors and big corporates and government companies, they don't purchase anything below level 5. So that's the creating pool. On the other hand, I know many air conditioning manufacturers and even the refrigerator manufacturers, they don't manufacture or put anything in the market of level 1 and 2. They simply start from level 3, 4, 5. And since you are putting more and more products in the market, the affordability comes down. And if we talk about the payback period, which is one of the perhaps key aspect when the consumer goes, most of these products, the kind of electricity saving and the associated cost, the payback comes only about 2.5 to 3 years. That means you are paying only the extra money, which is paid back in next 2 years or so. And after that, it's free. So you are going to save money. So when this thing is realized by the consumer, that's going to be actually the success of this program. But it has to be started from the government, from the industry, from the corporates, that whenever they are going to buy, please aim for a very high efficient products. Whereas as most of the corporates in India are purchasing only 5-star and not below 5-star. And in government also, we don't purchase anything below 3-star or 5-star. And there is a rapid growth. It's not a big issue that the consumers won't prefer level 4 or 5. Consumers are ready to pay a higher cost, but they realize the importance of saving electricity, saving energy, and saving the environment. I think, thank you.
Great, thank you. Now, I know that Schneider helps hugely with that demand pull, and actually as comms director, I see media monitoring every day, and I see you mentioning EP100 and other programs in terms of your promotional materials and messages out to the wider business community, which is hugely helpful. Thank you. So clearly, it's a key leading aspect for your offer to your clients as well as your own business. But also I know from a broader climate perspective, businesses don't want to just be the leaders and see everybody else not taking action as well. So broader government measures can play a huge role. On that, what changes would you like to see to a policy on product efficiency from governments, whether that be in Europe or more broadly, and when would you like to see that?
Okay, thank you for that question. By the way, government don't play a key role; they play a fundamental role, I think, in the transition, as you actually said as well. And particularly, as in fact the real target, and this is what you said in your intervention, the real target is actually 2030, right? So it's 425 weeks. Anyway, it's very soon. It's close. So and I think this is mostly where governments can play a role, because in fact it's not that we lack the technologies most of the time. It's not that it's not going to happen ultimately, with wealth development, with innovations reaching maturity and so on, but it's that it all needs to happen within a few hundred weeks, right? Which I can't retain the exact figure, 425 weeks. And so I think the first thing, but you actually were very precise on this, the first thing is no complacency, right? So I mean, there is no time to waste anymore. So we just need to level up the requirements of the market, right? Once and for all. And as a matter of fact, and as you were saying, I mean, anyway, when you're a supplier of a best-in-class product, you get a better market share. So it's not a point of, trying to push the market in your favor. It's actually just the point of making sure that everyone is actually getting up to the level where it needs to be for those targets. So I think that's one thing, but you were very detailed on that, so let me not expand. There is a second thing which probably could be helpful, is the whole conversation around transparency in data and potentially international standards and standardization across different countries. to be discussed to which extent. I mean, certainly a second order of priority versus what I said, but I think that could be helpful. Then a couple of points which I think need probably a better focus. One of them is what I explained before, is that it's not only about the efficiency of the product, it's also what you do with it, how you control it. And this, to be very frank, when I look today at policies on energy efficiency, I find the topic of controlling the energy gravely overlooked in most policies that exist, right? So I think, and again, I'm a bit sorry about that, because digital technologies or software or whatever, they are modern technologies. This is maybe why they are not in current policies, but in modern policies, this is where they should be. So I'd recommend we take a closer look at this, given the economics, the competitiveness, what it can bring, with very short paybacks, as we discussed. And last point, and then I stop, I promise. I think if we were to expand a little bit the scope beyond efficiency, we have the whole conversation around circularity. In this regard, the European Union has started to do things around this in the eco-design directive. I welcome this because honestly, I think circularity is another disruption which holds massive potential in terms of, cutting away emissions across the supply chains, and I think we should also have a focus on that.
Thank you. I think really interesting point there, that governments as well as regulators help shape people's perceptions, and the excitement that comes with digitization and other energy efficiency measures that are coming in, smart energy, use of data, etc. Maybe we need governments not just to be regulating, but to be, helping lead and shape opinions of the wider public and business leaders as well. So just turning to Arçelik, so manufacturers obviously producing more efficient products play a critical role, and you've highlighted some of those fantastic improvements you've helped drive in South Africa. As you go to the next level in terms of taking that forward, in terms of more efficient products in the market, how would you like government to work with you to drive the rollout even further than it is at the moment? Is government doing enough, or what's the picture across the world? Are some governments doing enough and some not? It'd be great to hear from you.
It's a muddled picture. There's a few things that I expect out of COP. One of them is actually governments managing to cooperate better. What do I mean by that? Regulation is a must, we know that, and it's the low-hanging fruit, right? It's the magic button. We can wipe out a significant chunk of what we need to do by just switching to energy-efficient products. So this is fact. And the technologies are here, like you mentioned. It's not like we have to invent something. In many cases, they're scalable already. They're out there. It's not like we're saying, okay, we need to invest this much money to have the product ready. So governments really need to regulate. Are they doing enough? No. Do I hope that they will do enough? Again, no. That's why I say companies need to voluntarily actually change their stance and voluntarily go to much higher standards. Now, there is another method that I'm hopeful might come out of here, and that's Article 6. And if we can actually create the infrastructure for carbon markets, a carbon tax is the easiest way to push appliances to become more efficient, because obviously the one that consumes more power is going to be taxed more. And I think that'll drive costs down very fast. And I think that's coming too. So I'm hopeful on the governments and the market side. I just want to touch on circularity as well, because it raises a fundamental question. I mean, when we started this journey several years back, at least, of trying to improve the energy efficiency of appliances in the market, the way to do that is to, let's say, sell you a refrigerator. Yours is 10 years, give you a discount, and then you reduce the amount of energy consumed by his refrigerator in his home by at least 50-60% on a 10-year-old product, which is very significant. Appliances consume about a third of power in a home, so you can imagine how that adds up. Now, what do you do with the old fridge? It used to end up in the landfills. You have programs across Europe to deal with them, but if you really dig deep, how much of that product is recycled, you will find, especially in emerging markets, not much at all. So we couldn't find recycling facilities. We had to build one our own, Mad Max style, 40-meter ceilings, and we've recycled 1.5 million appliances, brand agnostic. So it doesn't matter whose appliance we're taking. We still recycle it, and we use a lot of that material in our new products production, and we give it to other industries as well. So that also saves emissions from using virgin materials, essentially. So what I'm trying to say is, while we're building energy efficiency, we must make sure that the circularity hook is also attached and those old appliances are being recovered as well. So the answer is absolutely yes. Governments have to do something to speed it up. But in the absence of that, companies can actually fill the slack.
Great, thank you. And well, I hope you don't mind me asking a quick follow-up on that. So I know you may not want to name particular governments, but what would you say the governments which are helping most with that? What are the lessons there for other governments?
Yeah, Europe definitely is a best example in all of this, right? The Green Deal is really a good deal. And the problem is, though, that Europe can only be an example because essentially Europe is 8% of global emissions. So if we want to make a real dent in this, we need to take that example into places like Pakistan, Indonesia, India, Bangladesh, where populations and consumption is going to explode. And that's where all emission increases are going to come from. So the role of people like us, I guess, is that we do business in Europe and we do business in those markets. And we need to take the best practices from those markets, including government regulation, to the markets we operate in and try and help through NGOs and through governments to actually bring those best practices to life. We're doing this. I mean, I'm hopeful, by the way, because as the world gets warmer, you know, consumers are going to start caring also and understanding that they can vote with their money for companies who are doing the right thing.
Great, thank you very much indeed. Now, just coming to the last question before we all move on to closing the session with our last speaker. One of the things that I think we found most pleasing as an international non-profit is to see how businesses and governments have moved from just taking their own action, which can be incredibly ambitious, to actually having a real desire to take that message out to other businesses. They see it as a key competitive aspect of what they can do, but also in fora such as these are very keen to influence not just the market, but the opinions of their peers as well. So I just would like to ask each of you, starting with Mr. Petit, what would you say to your peers to inspire them to take ambitious action on product efficiency now?
In a few words, I imagine.
Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes each, actually.
But I will steal a phrase that you just said, which I loved. The Green Deal is a good deal. So that's what I would say. I think the Green Deal is a good deal. I think ultimately, when you try to be the best in this area, you always win. Always win. And as a matter of fact, so that'd be a first message. And I think and why you win because of the consumers, and that's important. And then I would say a second topic. So we are faced with a challenge, you know, by 2030. Let's insist on the fact that this is the key milestone. All the rest is a bit longer term, but I think 2030 is major. So we have to be very, very fast. You know, I think most of the technologies are available, right? Sometimes they are a bit new technologies, or there are different ways of applying technologies that we know. But we basically have to get on it, but we have everything in the toolbox. So it's just a matter of willing to do that. If you want to make your products more efficient, you know, you can make your products, you can do that. I mean, design tools today already exist to do that. If you want to control your products better in order to reduce your carbon emissions, and again, that's a significant factor, 20-30%, right, that I was mentioning before, it's perfectly feasible, and paybacks are very low. So what are we waiting for? I think it's a good deal.
Thank you. I'm next going to put that question to Mr. Bulgurlu, if that's okay. So what would you say to your peers, particularly those who are maybe you think are not taking as much action as they might do?
If you mean my competition by peers, I will say something else. If you mean my peers in the company, I will say something else.
Well, I put it this way: maybe your competition, and then maybe also then other businesses that are maybe of the similar status and scale as you, but not in your own market.
Yeah, I think scale examples are important, and actually showing that it succeeds, as you very eloquently put, is also important because. Then everybody will follow. And I think we're past the moment where CEOs and leadership teams can look at sustainability and just do the bare minimum they have to do and say what they have to say. I think now everybody genuinely is saying, wait a minute, I really need to get acting now. 425 weeks, 2030, it's not far away. It's coming. And I think what I would tell them is that you have a choice. You can be on the wrong side of history or on the right side of history. And history is always unkind to whoever's been on the wrong side. Not to mention being able to look your children in the eye and say, what's been happening has been happening in my watch, and I didn't do absolutely everything I could do. The way we try and lead the business is from a real bottom-up approach, and I think with a purpose and credibility, we've gotten that. Everybody genuinely believes that every action and decision they take is going to make a difference in the company at every level. And I think that is what drives change and brings success.
Great, thank you very much indeed. And so finally going to put that to Mr. Bakray. So obviously India is taking a key leadership position on this. What would you say to your peers, I suppose within the government and also to other governments, particularly in the region and those you have strong connections with, about what they might do?
Yeah, that's true. In fact, of course, my government, since I am heading the energy efficiency, so the decisions come from my office only, so that's not an issue. And the government is very keen in India to take the energy efficiency as the very first fuel. The same message, if I wish to give, and many countries like Indonesia, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, they have all taken clue from our successes, and they are very much keen, and they are really going ahead. The message which I was to basically give to my stakeholders in the industry, especially, that we have a strong regulatory mechanism, and we want to keep on improving the standards. There is always apprehensions. There is some kind of fear in the minds of the industry, whether their market share will come down or something like that, which I always tell them, no, the citizens, the consumers are quite educated. They would always prefer the best product, the most efficient product, the reliable product, and they're not going to purchase the least cost product. So, and we have seen the numbers, and today top 2 to 3 manufacturers are having the highest share in India, and not the ones which are the cheapest, selling the cheapest product, but because they are selling the best product in the market. And I think he said that it's not the market share, but they have some fear whenever we improve the standards. Like again, January 22, we are going to again upgrade our standards. The industry always comes and tells, no, sir, it's going to be affecting. We are going to lose so much market. The cost will go up. The consumers will not purchase. The economy will get affected. But that's the case. The industry must take risk. We are there to always create regulatory progress, and the most important, it is the citizens, is the people of India, and of course in other countries. They are there to respond to the energy efficiency call, and in my opinion, SEED is the very effective initiative which can make the game changer for this particular decade for the energy efficiency improvement in meeting all our ambitions. SEED is the most important initiative across the world. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much indeed. So now I'm going to call upon Rose Mwabaza, Director of the Climate Technology Center and Network at the United Nations Environment Programme. Thank you very much, Rose, for joining us.
I'll start if you don't mind.
Of course.
Thank you. So I am the director of the UN Climate Technology Center Network. It's actually the implementation arm of the UNFCCC, and we're established to support countries to access cost-effective, efficient, environmentally sound technologies, developing countries, and that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. We are hosted by the Danish government, so we're based in Copenhagen. We are operational in 107 countries, and we've been able to facilitate the transfer of over 350 technologies. Top among these technologies is actually energy efficiency and renewable energies. So it's very appropriate that I'm here on behalf of UNEP. First, to thank the government of the United Kingdom and the IEA for organizing this event and for keeping the ambition high on energy efficiency through this initiative. We know this is critically important because of the countries we serve. I'm thrilled to hear about the ambitious commitments from Nigeria, which I know very well, India, Arcellic and Schneider Electric, and I hope that this leadership will inspire others to act. To keep global warming at 1.50 degrees this century, the world needs to act urgently to accelerate action on energy, efficiency, and to have annual greenhouse gas emissions. I know this because I work for UNEP. We host the IPCC jointly. We've just told you what the science tells us. We also produce the emissions gap report. We've just told you what that does. And I'm just coming out of a press briefing on the adaptation gap report, which we are calling the gathering storm. So we really must work together. So to do so, we must urgently enhance energy efficiency of our lighting systems, our fridges, air conditioners, and other appliances to ensure we are on the path to net zero. And this will have immense benefits for our economies and sustainable development. Energy efficiency can help us rebuild our economies better and greener. I know I stand between you and the lunch break that we all need. But I would like to say that UNEP's analysis, based on our work in the United for Efficiency program, underscores the multiple benefits of improving energy efficiency of these products in developing and emerging economies, including $100 billion in annual electricity bill savings, it's a huge amount, enhanced grid stability, and reduced pollution from power stations by saving electricity equal to 500 large power plants, and in terms of climate, 940 million tons of CO2 annually. So for UNEP, the transformational action on the ground is supporting across all sectors. One, working alongside countries, cities, industry, and civil society. And I'll give you just a few examples. For example, working alongside Rwanda to implement its award-winning national cooling strategy, including the most ambitious minimum energy performance standards and labels in Africa for household refrigeration and room air conditioners. Another example, facilitating regional harmonization of appliance efficiency standards for 21 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa and 10 countries in Asia based on UNEP, United Efficiencies Models, regulation guidelines. The third example I will share with you is implementing the innovative financial mechanisms in Ghana and Senegal that enable consumers to access highly efficient and climate-friendly cooling products. And we've also worked in Pakistan, where we've supported the implementation of mandatory MEPs for lighting products. The third message I'd like to pass on from UNEP as I close is the launch of UNEP's United Efficiency and Lawrence Beckley National Laboratory new model for regulating commercial refrigeration equipment. Today, on behalf of UNEP, it's my great pleasure to announce UNEP's United for Efficiency Laboratory developing new models for regulation guidelines for commercial refrigeration equipment with support from the UK government and volunteer experts from around the world. In the guidelines, minimum efficiency level ambition scenarios are pursued across all emerging and developing economies, and the annual impacts realized by 2023, a little bit shy over the target of 2030, a decade after the initial implementation, most importantly, would be saving of 42 terawatt hours of electricity, which is equivalent to about 65 power plants over 150 megawatts each, a reduction of 40 million tons of CO2 emissions, and around 3.9 billion in electricity bill savings. These regulations that we are launching in this initiative will help countries implement robust policies to accelerate the uptake of energy-efficient cooling technologies, and will be paired with new voluntary financial mechanisms and regulatory programs in developing and emerging economies. And of course, the concrete efforts that we will derive out of this will enable the doubling of energy efficiency of the products covered. And UNEP is very proud to serve as a dedicated partner to the SEED partnership since its inception and going into the future. Lastly, UNEP has many examples of transformational actions on energy efficiency, but we can only share so much in the short time we have. So on behalf of UNEP, let me call on all the countries and companies listening to us today to join the SEED initiative and to commit to support our efforts in bringing sustainable, efficient, and affordable products to all. We look forward to seeing the ambitious commitments made here today and be transformed into actions on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So just to quickly wrap up, we've heard, I think, some fantastic, convincing evidence of the business opportunity, the economic opportunity, and the benefits to citizens across the world from this agenda. I think, just to say on behalf of everybody, thank you very much to the government of the United Kingdom, the COP26 team, the International Energy Agency for spearheading this initiative, and thank you again for all the officials who've put in their hard work behind today's event. Thank you very much indeed to the government of India for helping drive this forward and being a key leadership member of this initiative. And thank you from all of us, and also from the Climate Group, to Schneider and Arçelik for all your work to drive forward this agenda, and we really, really love working with you. Thank you to all our speakers. If everybody could thank our speakers. Thank you very much indeed. Have a wonderful rest of COP. Thank you.